Okay, hello, welcome ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is Live from Saturn. We didn't even rehearse that.
No, that's just natural chemistry.
That's right, absolutely. So yes, I am Duncan Gale.
I'm Cody Edgar. Oh, we didn't introduce. No, we did introduce ourselves in the last one.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah. Okay. We're very professional here. So yeah, today we're going to be looking at Edgar Allan Poe, up and coming young writer.
Bright future ahead of him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A real. This is the second part of our Spooktober / Spooktember.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
Absolutely.
So get your spook hats on. We're gonna look at the Godfather of horror.
Absolutely. The hardest working man in scare business. Okay. So Edgar Allan Poe. So yeah, I think everybody has some sort of knowledge of Edgar Allan Poe.
The King of the Goths.
King of the Goths. Yeah. The original emo goth guy. But yeah, so he was born in Boston in what was it, 1820, something like that. But lived most of his life in Virginia, actually. Born in 1809. But raised in Richmond, Virginia. So yeah, shout out to Virginia. It's my home state.
Oh yeah, you know so many celebrities. I
do, yeah. No, I actually knew Edgar growing up. We were childhood chums. So it's interesting, this Virginia connection, because while I didn't know him or any of his descendants, he did attend the University of Virginia briefly, and I'm from Charlottesville, and if you go to the campus, or the grounds, I think they call it, of the University of Virginia, you can. There's actually this one room that has an old timey desk and has like a raven on it and stuff, and it's like this was Edgar Allan Poe's room, and you can press this button, and when you press the button, it's like, hello, this was where Edgar Allan Poe stayed when he. Yeah, I mean, the speaker is totally blown out on it and everything, but you can still try and listen to it. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, he was basically, I think he was only at UVA for a semester or so. Like he couldn't even afford to be there. But that brief period of time, UVA is like, oh yeah, Edgar Allan Poe went here. Yeah, so yeah, it's that's my background in terms of just. Yeah, growing up in the place where he was from and stuff. But otherwise, so we're going to be looking at a number of his short stories today. I mean, he also wrote some great poems as well.
I was going to count, but you didn't, so
okay.
I just did a weird hand motion.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at 5 different short stories. Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and count them off. Yeah. So we got Fall of the House of Usher. We got Masque of the Red Death. We got The Pit and the Pendulum. We got The Cask of Amontillado, and we got The Telltale Heart. Okay, probably his 5 most well-known horror stories. I mean, he also wrote some interesting detective stories as well. And wrote some great poems, of course.
He did detective noir stuff.
Oh, yeah. Actually, there's this other short story he did, The Murders in the Rue Morgue, which is considered the first detective story. And actually, if you read the first Sherlock Holmes book, they actually make reference to that. Watson says, "Oh, you remind me of that character in that Edgar Allan Poe short story." Yes,
because this is my background with this guy is I know he was the big inspiration for Lovecraft. Some other things were the inspiration for that. Because the next episode is going to be at the Mountain of Madness. If you guys want to catch up on that, before it's too late. But so he was the godfather for cosmic horror, because that Lovecraft, spearheaded cosmic horror, and then Sherlock Holmes. They all come from this guy who died in a gutter.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, died at the age of 40. Wasn't. I mean, he was somewhat successful in his life. I mean, he's actually considered like the first American writer that made his living just being a writer, although not well. But yeah.
You know, I didn't even know he was from America.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
I thought he was from London.
Right. Yeah. No. He definitely has a sort of European flavor to him. But yeah. No. He is all American. Yeah.
I hadn't read him. I remember in middle school we read. Yep. I do have a good memory. I think is Telltale Heart.
Yep.
And the Cask of Amontillado.
Yeah.
And I thought the Cask of Amontillado was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually a story in Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles that it like directly references the Cask of Amontillado. I mean, to see sort of like reenact some stuff, and and I think similarly, in middle school, I think almost all of the stories we're going to be covering today, I think I read in like my 8th grade English class. I mean, as I was going through them, it was coming back to me. Yeah, so, Edgar Allan Poe, I think he's if you're kind of getting into like, more sort of like serious literature, I think he's a good sort of gateway to that because I mean, he's interesting, he's, entertaining, but there's also some literary quality to his works as well. So,
and if you're like, I'm not going to physically read, what am I? A college professor?
Right.
Not only are there audiobooks, but for free, Christopher Lee reads them, and those are on
YouTube.
Oh,
awesome. Oh, that's cool. Christopher Lee, yeah, that would be good.
And it is like, because he goes like, thank you for joining me in this adventure of literature of the great Edgar Allan Poe. And I was like, heck yeah, Christopher Lee. That got me way more on board. Also, they're animated shorts people make of it. Cool. There's a whole community of people making this stuff for free. Because I will not pay for it.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, my other big sort of childhood memory of Edgar Allan Poe. Wait, I mean, first off, the very first Simpsons Treehouse of Horror classic. They do the Raven with James Earl Jones reading it, so that's a great one. But also, they started doing a new series of Classics Illustrated, like in the 90s, and I remember I had one of them that was, I think it was just like Edgar Allan Poe's poems and stuff, but it was illustrated by this guy Gan Wilson, who is a really sort of like surreal, crazy cartoonist type guy. Frank probably knows who he is.
Which, speaking, if you're wondering where Frank is, we actually entombed him in a cask.
We did.
We were just like, just come on down. We got wine.
That's right. Yeah, fooled him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you hear some banging in the background, don't worry about it.
That's just the heartbeat of a beat still.
That's right.
My heart. What else happened? I'll do it for every story.
We have them suspended over. There's this thing whooshing back and forth.
Accidentally alive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't. He has like a family.
He has other obligations.
He's like, I'm a successful artist, and it's like,
okay. All right, fine.
All right.
Okay, yeah. So,
just for the record, he's going to be gone for a while. So.
Yeah. Sadly, but we'll try to soldier on with that.
If you're upset, imagine me, and I'm like, we haven't even had time to sell out yet. That should be coming up any day now. We will. But yeah, we didn't bury him alive. Just jokes.
That's right. Yeah, it's all in good fun. All right.
I'm gonna cut all that out.
Okay, good. Please do. All right. So yeah, I guess we can get into these stories now.
Yeah, let's. I like the order that you introduced them in. I think that's a great order to do the ending. Yeah, I was like perfect.
Yeah.
So what's the first one we got?
Okay, so the first story we have is The Fall of the House of Usher.
Yes.
Yes.
And I only knew of this from the joke in The Simpsons where Usher's house collapses.
That's right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah. And you're not wrong. That's part of it. Yeah.
This is like his stories are definitely like I was listening to them in broad daylight and it was sort of like I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
It is like they're very Twilight Zone-y, but it's very atmospheric and it's something you're really supposed to sit there in the setting by candlelight and sort of just feel the mood.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely very moody, very very atmospheric. Yeah, and I think that the Twilight Zone was definitely I think a lot of these were a sort of inspiration for the sort of structure of Twilight Zone.
Because a lot of Twilight Zone stories are sort of like that'd be messed up, right?
Right.
So
yeah, and also a lot of Twilight Zone episodes are like there's really not that much going on. Like it's a pretty simple thing going on. They do a lot with little, and I think that's a lot of these stories as well. In terms of the events, like okay, what happened in this story? Well, not that much.
It's just like, dang, imagine. Yeah, you have Rod Serling be like,
right.
Imagine if that'd be effed up, right?
Yeah,
I can't.
yeah.
I thought I had something.
Imagine if that happened. That'd be effed up.
I mean, literally, he says, "Picture, if you will."
Yeah.
So, imagine this, right? You're on a plane. That'd be, and there was a spooky monster.
Right.
That'd be messed up.
Yeah.
No, they are. Yeah. Twilight Zone holds up. I rewatch that for Halloween sometimes, and it is like there's a lot of emotional stories. It's not all spooky stuff. It is like there's stuff where it's like you cry to. It's like a guy who goes to heaven and stuff. But,
right. Oh yeah.
But we're introduced to a guy going down it. I can see how you can mock the writing. I think it's great, but it really is.
Oh
like,
yeah.
It was a dark, rainy night, and it was raining, and everyone was sad.
I'll go ahead and just read the first sentence here. He says, during the whole of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the autumn of the year, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens, I had been passing alone on horseback through a singularly dreary tract of country, and at length found myself, as the shades of the evening drew on, within view of the melancholy house of Usher. So it gives you a taste of, basically the mood, the overall style.
Characters also, I they act very theatrically.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like if you read this at daylight, it's like that's pretty goofy. Yeah. But at night, it is sort of like like at one of them, the guy like trips and falls. I'm like that's, and he's like I flailed about.
Right. Yeah.
But at night, it's like these people are like going mad, and there is like it is like how mad they've turned is like a. That if you let it be creepy and you get into it, it's very good.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, the older monster movies and stuff. It's like you can look at them as cheesy, but if you sort of get into the mood of it, you can enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's visiting his friend who's having who's having a tough time.
Yeah. So I mean, as will be the sort of trend with a lot of these stories, there is an unnamed narrator, and the narrator visits his friend Roderick Usher, who was a friend of his from boyhood, but you kind of get the sense that it was maybe a little one-sided, like this guy really didn't have many friends. And so this guy's like, oh yeah, I'm like one of his main friends, and that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
but,
he's sort of I don't know, like he's like, what's going on?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, hey, can you come over to my mansion? Like, yeah, sure. What's up, bud?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What's going on? And it turns out, that this guy Usher is, he's very melancholy. He feels things a lot. He's just very out of sorts, and he has a sister who is dying, and that's just sort of like casually mentioned, like as he's talking to this guy Roderick Usher, like his sister walks by in the background, and she's like, oh yeah, she's dying, yeah. It's kind of.
He's like, that's really. Weird, yeah. He's like, so that's adding to my stress. And
right,
like,
right.
And I think I'm dying too, and it's like my
right.
legacy is probably going to collapse, and it's like I'm like I just need to like a friend right now.
Yeah. So yeah, basically that's what's going on.
Now I also did some looking up into this guy, and apparently Edgar Allan Poe was like, he's like he hated people over analyzing his stuff.
Yeah.
But and I guess the big thing that people were talking about with it is, were they incestuous?
Yeah, and I mean, and that is something that kind of can't help but cross your mind when you have this guy in this mansion with his sister, and they don't really socialize with anybody outside of it, and it turns out that his sister is a twin sister. Yeah, so he and the sister are twins, and so they're very close. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess there's like some wording that's a little like, what do you mean by that? Mm-hmm. The bloodline, which stayed very close.
Right.
If you catch my drift on this dreary drift.
Right. Yeah. Not many branches out in this in this family tree. Yes, it stays very well, and
the
actually
leaves doth fall in the autumn wind.
Yeah, and actually Edgar Allan Poe did marry his cousin. I'm not sure if you
cool.
saw that in your research. Yeah. I think
research is very generous on my end.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. He married his cousin, and I think she was like 13 at the time when they got married or something. So he was the original Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah. Did Mark Twain, was that like a reference to Edgar Allan Poe? Did he marry his cousin too?
Mark Twain? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he married his cousin.
Oh well, yeah. Okay. Well, I know that. Yeah.
I mean, Mark Twain maybe wrote about people who married their cousins.
But in art, there's truth.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for.
And in truth, there's art. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where's the air horn?
Gotta add that to our.
We're gonna do radio DJ
sound
stuff.
Effects. Yeah.
Boing.
Yeah.
He married his cousin. Boing.
Boing.
Yeah. So he's visiting, and he's like, this guy's having a mental breakdown. He's like, it all ends with this, and I'm not doing too well either.
Yeah. At one point. So the narrator talks about finding Roderick Usher, and he says, "To an anomalous species of terror, I found him a bounden slave. I shall perish," said he. "I must perish in this deplorable folly. Thus, and not otherwise shall I be lost. I dread the events of the future, not in themselves, but in their results. I shudder at the thought of any, even the most trivial incident, which may operate upon this intolerable agitation of soul. I have indeed no abhorrence of danger except in its absolute effect, in terror. In this unnerved, in this pitiable condition, I feel that the period will sooner or later arrive when I must abandon life and reason altogether in some struggle with the grim phantasm, fear." So
and the narrator's like, geez, man, that sounds
like okay, okay, buddy.
You got to remember, there's gonna be good times ahead, and just keep doing what you're doing, man, and you're on the right track. You got a whole mansion ahead of you. You got but so this guy is not in a good way. His sister's about to die, and that will basically leave him the last of this line of the ushers, So basically, the only other thing that really happens in this story is that, so eventually his sister does die, supposedly, and Usher decides to keep her entombed. Yeah, he's like the reason that he's like, can you help me carry the casket?
Right.
Like he's like asking him to help him move and stuff, and it's just like, why am I here? He's like, I need someone to help me like carry the casket to our sacred tombs. I'm like, okay,
right.
We don't have to hang out.
It's like, okay, yeah.
We used to hang out in like middle school, man. This is you have to. There has to be someone else you could have asked.
Right.
He's like, I'll do this, but you've really put a lot into our friendship.
Right. Yeah, and so that happens. Yeah, and so they basically keep the sister in this tomb, and then he goes back in to sort of go to sleep, but he can't really get to sleep. There's like weird stuff starting to go on. There's like this atmosphere of dread that sort of keeps increasing more and more, and then basically, eventually, it turns out that the sister was actually not dead. She had to like claw her way out of the tomb, and she comes in and she has like blood on her and stuff, and everybody's just like, oh my god.
Like, jeez.
Yeah. And then at that point the narrator is like, okay, see ya. And so the narrator just basically like runs out of the house, and like and like when he was first coming into the house, he like noticed a crack in the house, and like as he's leaving, like the crack like increases, and then like the house like breaks in two and like falls into the lake, and that's like the end of the story. So again, that's all just to say, in terms of like recounting the events of what happens in an Edgar Allan Poe short story is not always the point. It's more just sort of like, okay, what's the sort of atmosphere, what's the vibe going on?
That's in the moment. But if you recount anything that happens,
right,
it's a little goofy.
Yeah.
But like you're there, and it's like, oh my god, that we wake up at night, and their body is screaming in blood. And
right.
But when you're like, so he's like, I'm gonna leave. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, do you want to stay the night? He's like, I'm good.
Right. Yeah, no, we're good.
He's like, dang, the house collapsed too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a Twilight Zone. Like that'd be messed up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, if when you're in the moment, it's there, and it's very poetic and stuff. But
there's
certainly a funny side to these. The same thing in Lovecraft. There's a lot that are just there's a very funny story, and I don't know if I can't even tell. I'm like, there's no way this was unintentional.
Okay.
But yeah. So where do you? I think the order that you did this is where I would rank these stories.
Okay.
With this being probably my least favorite.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, this is. I think this is actually one of his longer short stories. But it's weird because if you compare it to a lot of his other stories that are like much shorter, there's like the same amount of events happen. And I think like Telltale Heart versus this, like the same amount of stuff happens, but this is just like really drawn out. It's like. Yeah. I remember reading through this again and being like, "Oh wow, this thing's like 20 pages long." Like, but yeah, I mean, like, how does it even stretch out that long? Yeah.
The black candles left a dark light upon and he's like, "There's nothing really happening."
Right.
But it's the atmosphere of it that you're there for.
Right.
But yeah. And I'll tell you what. Before we jump into the rest of them. I think we'll let the nice folks at home grab some I don't know, candy corn.
Yeah.
I think candy corn is a money laundering scheme, and I think like Silver Joe, that fish place. I think that's also that one got exposed as like a money laundering thing. I think candy corn is like people buy it all the time, and it's like no, they don't. They're funneling in money through something. Funnel caking. So yeah, go ahead and grab some of that, and then we're gonna read a comment or two.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, sounds good.
And we're back. And
okay, we're back.
The absolute last technical issue that will ever happen in the history of Saturn.
That's right.
Okay. Hey, do we have a comment?
We do, yes. From our Hyperion episode, Techno Tingu said, "You guys sold me on this. It's so hard to find a good sci-fi book. Love those. That isn't just a glorified space opera. Hate those." Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah, and I'm glad that we sold you on it. Yeah, I think Hyperion is a very good book overall. I mean, it's uneven a little bit. Some of the stories in it are better than others, but I think overall it's very well written and worth your time if you're interested in that kind of thing.
Yeah. And speaking of stories, that some are better than the others.
Yes, indeed. So yes, back to Edgar Allan Poe. Yes. So yeah, the next story that we're going to look at is The Masque of the Red Death. Ooh.
This is definitely one that I can see people analyzing the meaning of.
Yeah. No, I think this is definitely one of those stories that, given recent events in our world, people are probably referencing this story a lot. So this story, pretty short, and again, not that much to this one, but it's evocative, I think.
It is cool.
Yeah.
This is that's cool that happened.
Yeah, there's some cool imagery and stuff in it. So yeah, basically it's there's this plague ravaging the country called the Red Death. This is at a sort of unspecified time, but I mean it seems like it's maybe at the medieval time or something like that with a plague, and so this guy Prince Prospero has decided, we're just going to build a big complex and have everybody come in there and avoid this Red Death, this plague that's ravaging the countryside.
It's boils that bleed blood.
Yeah. Let me see if I can. So again, this is just from the beginning of the story. It says, the Red Death had long devastated the country. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avatar and its seal, the redness and the horror of blood. There were sharp pains and sudden dizziness, and then profuse bleeding at the pores with dissolution. The scarlet stains upon the body, and especially upon the face of the victim, were the pest ban, which shut him out from the aid and from the sympathy of his fellow men. In the whole seizure, progress, and termination of the disease were the incidents of half an hour. You would also lose your taste of smell, sense of taste and sense of smell, and if you don't get vaccinated for it, it's your own fault. That's all in there. Okay.
Ahead of its time.
Yeah, really.
Isn't that great? We got
time,
a boils thing going around now too.
Yeah, we do. That's right. Yeah, monkeypox, right? Yeah, good stuff.
Monkeys, chicken. What's next?
Basically, this guy Prince Prospero, he decides, okay, there's this plague ravaging the country. I'm just gonna have this big complex. Gonna invite all my friends in here. We're just going to chill in here and have a great big party and leave everybody else out there, and you guys die of that plague, suckers, and we're going to be in here and we're going to be protected from it. Ha ha.
The setup of the elite are hiding themselves away from disease that's ravaging the country.
Yeah.
And they're just we're just going to hang out in a mansion. That's some fun. That's people got to have fun with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm surprised there's not people being you're this is the mask. You're the what they're going to get you, the mask of the red mask of Amontillado.
Right.
It's happening.
Exactly. So a bunch of people go inside to avoid this horrible plague. So what can go wrong? Most of the rest of the story is just sort of describing the big complex and what's going on in there. And so basically the masque refers to a sort of masquerade ball that's going on, and there's talk about how whenever the clock chimes, everybody sort of stops and looks at the clock, and it's time is sort of progressing. So it's that's the one thing they can't avoid is that time continues. So the clock sort of reminds them of that. But otherwise, it's a very carefree masquerade going on. And then all of a sudden, this one person comes in wearing a mask, and basically starts messing with people, and let me see. It says Yeah, the figure was tall and gaunt and shrouded from head to foot in the habiliments of the grave. The mask which concealed the visage was made so nearly to resemble the countenance of a stiffened corpse. The closest scrutiny must have had difficulty in detecting the cheat, and yet all this might have been endured if not approved by the mad revelers around. But the mummer had gone so far as to assume the type of the Red Death. So this guy is actually dressed like the Red Death. His vesture was dabbled in blood, and his broad brow with all the features of the face was besprinkled with the scarlet horror. And so basically, once this happens, Prince Prospero, he doesn't like that. So he's like, hey, get this guy out of here. And basically, he chases the guy down, and he basically dies when
he collapses.
When he tries to catch the guy, and everybody else who tries to catch this mysterious figure also dies, and then finally somebody's like, what is this? What is this person? And they like tear off the mask, and there's like nothing there, and it's just like all just an empty set of clothes, and everybody dies. So.
And it's just like, Rod Sterling comes out. It's like, that'd be messed up, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is probably the most sort of overtly Twilight Zone-y of all of these. It's just like, all of these people avoiding the Red Death. Yes.
Yeah, I'm surprised this isn't the thing they have you read when you're a kid and be like, no, so what does that mean? And you're like, well,
right.
The Red Death represents death. And the...
Right.
And so they tried to hide from it, but it came for them.
Right. So yeah, it's pretty...
Why is it red? It's like it's blood.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a little subtle...
That's right.
Undertone.
Yeah. I mean, that's... I mean, once you know that, you're halfway to an English degree, I think.
I think this is a good one to like be your first Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
This is definitely the most like, oh, this is goth. This is like, the red drapes and blood are coming for you, and they're like, it's me. Who are you? He's like, I'm Death, and like, dang it.
Yep.
And then they can't get out because they welded the door shut.
That's right. Yeah. So there's that as well. That's another kind of ironic twist. Yeah, Twilight Zone-esque. I mean, pretty short, pretty straightforward. Pretty clear symbolism. Yeah, and moral to the story, what have you. So
it was
not bad.
It was good. Yeah. All right, who's on next?
Okay, next we have The Pit and the Pendulum.
This was so he also did Saw first.
That's right. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I haven't seen Saw, but from what from what I know about it, I can see there's some connections. Yeah,
the guy's like, you're not grateful for your life, so like cut your stomach open and stuff. It's like that's not a fair trade. You're a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, you're great. You should be grateful.
Right. But rather than a crazy person, in this case, we have the Spanish Inquisition,
which I did not expect.
Yeah, no, nobody does. Yep.
We did it.
Yeah, we did it. So the Pit and the Pendulum. We once again have an unnamed narrator who is condemned by the Spanish Inquisition for some unspecified reason, but they really didn't need a reason to do it in many cases. I mean, this one was pretty creepy, pretty effective because again, this is a weird trick with a lot of Edgar Allan Poe stories is that you have somebody giving a first-hand account of like some horrible thing they went through. So it's like, okay, so I assume this person survived, to tell this story later on, but but there still are some vibes such as you think, okay, well, I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe this person is gonna not make it.
Yeah, there's also that tension where it's like, even if I, when it's like, oh, it's the main character not going to die. But the authors are still able to make it tense enough to where you're like, well, how's he not going to die?
Right.
And that becomes the tension.
Sure.
And also
sure,
you forget that, like, oh, this is being written. And you're just like, what's going to, if you forget that too, it's like.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the one where he's, he wakes up in like a dark room.
Yeah. So this guy, he's condemned by the Inquisition. He wakes up in this, and he doesn't know where he is. He can't see anything really, but he starts to sort of figure out the dimensions of the room that he's in, and he kind of feels around to sort of figure out how large it is, and so basically, at a certain point he kind of trips, and he feels it like when he falls on his stomach, and like he feels that there's nothing under his like chin, and he realizes that there's this pit basically in the sort of center of whatever room he's in, and he just barely avoided falling into that pit, right? And so that's basically the first part. That's the first of the two title characters of the story has been introduced.
So that's when we meet the main guy,
yeah.
the wise guy.
Yeah, so Pit and Pendulum, old partners.
Yeah, and it's like one's like pretty passive,
right?
And the other one's more active. And
that's
momentum,
right.
And
that's right. They're both getting too old for this shit. But,
getting too old for this pit.
Got it.
Yeah. Watch the time go as the pendulum flies.
Yeah.
Linkin Park.
Other references I don't get.
You're not a Linkin Park head?
I'm not. No, I'm sorry.
So yeah, he passes. Oh, also there's rats.
That's right. Yeah. There are rats, and that figures prominently into the sort of climax of the story. But yeah. So basically, the guy finds that there's a pit that he just narrowly avoided falling into. So his captors also give him like bread and water, and at one point, the water that he's given is drugged, and so he when he drinks it, he falls asleep, and when he wakes up again, it turns out that he's like tied to this platform, and he's like suspended over the pit, and then he sees above him this figure of Father Time, I think, something like that, some sort of figure, and then this pendulum comes out and starts swinging, and so basically, from then on, it's his perspective, seeing this pendulum slowly coming down that will eventually sort of cut him in half, and he has to sort of figure out if there's any possibility of him getting out of his restraints. Yeah.
Which, thanks to, much like in Endgame, the rats come in and they save the day.
Yeah.
Where would we be without rats?
Yeah, they say rats, assemble.
Yeah, I bet I know what the Spanish Inquisition said. Ah, rats.
Well, they're definitely saying that at the end of this story because of what happens. Yeah, but basically, he has like this plate of meat next to him, and what he basically does is he like takes some of the oil from the meat and like rubs it on him, and he basically gets the rats to like chew off his restraints and everything, and so he's freed of that, but then the walls get hot and start closing in around him. And
that's where it's like, what is this setup?
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, this is really like, pretty technologically advanced. Yeah.
This is right to like get this one guy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, whatever this guy did, they want to.
Because they're like, we'll put him in a dark room. He's gonna trip and fall into the pit.
Right.
But if he passes out, we'll hook him up to the pendulum thing. It's like, what if he gets out of that?
Yeah.
So we superheated the. This is like what the Joker would do.
And, right.
So the rooms are collapsing and they're hot also.
Yeah, yeah.
Which really, it's like, because it's like, not only is he going to be crushed, it's going to burn.
Yeah, and so, yeah, eventually he's like sort of cornered into having to fall into the pit, and he does, but then at the last minute he's saved.
By none other.
By none other than the French forces.
So this is not in Virginia.
No, this does not take place in Virginia.
So the French came in, beat up the Inquisition, and they're like, "What are you? What's up?"
Right.
And he was like, "I almost died," and they're like, "Dang."
Yeah. Oh wow. That's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, all right. Yeah. You can. You should write about that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this story. I mean, I think the strength of this story is just kind of, getting in this guy's head and really, being in the position of seeing the pendulum above you and sort of feeling what would that be like to actually see that sort of come down. And I think it's pretty effective in that. Yeah.
Because it's also like that is horrifying.
Yeah. No, it's definitely freaky. Yeah.
And you're like, what's he gonna do? And there's that thing of like, yeah, you go, man.
Right.
Yeah, you're doing it. It's like, I rubbed the meat oil on me.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. If only they tried that in the Avengers, maybe the button would have been pressed a couple years earlier. When the rat pushed the button, that's the only reason the plot could happen.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Rub some meat oil.
Okay.
This is just so I can tag Avengers Endgame in the video.
Well, I mean, to make another Marvel reference that very few people will get, I mean, this is similar to the villain Arcade.
I know about a plot that he was in.
Yeah. I mean, Arcade was a villain mostly against the X-Men. And it was basically just like, he was just this extremely wealthy guy that was able to create these like, incredibly elaborate contraptions of these like theme parks that had this like sinister side to them, where it's like, oh yeah, you're in this elaborate trap and you need to figure out how to get out of it before you're.
It gets some crazy stuff. It's gonna get wild.
Yeah.
If you don't get out,
exactly.
You take my word for it. But.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did like a Hunger's Game thing with like young Avengers and stuff. And it was it was kind of like they killed off like one popular character.
Oh wow.
And then after that, everyone got out. But it was like man, the Avengers should really be looking into all these missing kids.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know how serious he was with the X-Men. But yeah, it's like I think one guy's like Red Skull's son or something, or.
Oh, okay.
He was like this, also they did an experiment on him, and he has like shiny red skin.
Oh wow.
And, yeah. It was sort of like, why are you guys doing this? Why are you killing the children characters?
Yeah, that does seem like a bridge too far for Marvel. Yeah.
The Civil War plotline where the school blew up, that was fine. But,
yeah.
I didn't know those kids.
That's right. They were anonymous.
Yeah. All right. I thought that was probably the most tense one.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Now, what comes third?
Okay, fourth actually. I think. We have the Cask of Amontillado. Yeah.
This is like. This is an interesting one. This is in the category of the first one, which is if you retell this, a little on the goofy side.
Yeah.
Also, it is a good thing, like the insight into like a very just hateful person.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So the Cask of Amontillado. Yeah, we again have an unnamed narrator, although we actually do get his name because. A guy yells it out at a certain point. But yeah, so this guy, he really doesn't like this other guy, Fortunato, because this guy Fortunato has insulted him for some reason.
And I remember the teachers being like, and his name is Fortune.
Right.
But he's not fortunate.
Yeah.
That's like whoa.
Ironic. Yeah.
That's just the tip of the iceberg with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you hear a guy named Fortunato, and you're like, he's like very lucky.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the point, right?
Yeah, what are they doing? Carnival or something? Or
Yeah, they're at some sort of big celebration. Yeah, this seems to take place in Italy. Carnival, and so he runs into Fortunato, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I have this wine that I got, Amontillado, and." And I actually haven't had a chance to taste it at all, and so I'm not sure if it's real Amontillado. And Fortunato's like, "Oh well, I'm a great wine expert, so I can help you with that." And he's like, "Oh, okay, great, yeah, let's."
He's like, "Why don't you follow me to the catacombs?"
Yeah, let's go down to my mysterious dark cellar. And Fortunato's like, "Well, yeah, of course." And the narrator's like, "Well, no, actually, let me just get this other guy." To help me verify if this wine is right, and unfortunately, I was like, no. So I mean this the narrator he's really like messing with them, and he's playing mind games.
Yeah, and like he starts being like, maybe I shouldn't be following him. And he's like, but the wine. He's like, are you sure you want to do this? He's like, Amontillado.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He's like, all right. I mean, if you insist. He's walking hunched forward the whole time, I believe, and he's like on his tiptoes.
Yeah.
And he's like, just follow me more. He's like, are you sure? I mean, I could. My friend, that guy you hate, I could invite him. Mm-hmm. I think he knows wine more than you. And he's like, it's me. I'm the wine guy. He's like, okay. If we must go to my Amontillado. Right.
And at one point, Fortunato is like, hey, I'm a member of the Masons, and I'm so cool because of that. And the narrator's like, well, yeah, I am too. And Fortunato's like, really? And the narrator's like, yeah. And he shows him this trowel that he has, this tool. And Fortunato's not impressed by that, but that'll come back in a minute. But yeah, and so basically they go to the cellar eventually, and basically the guy's like, hey, Fortunato, clamp, and he basically.
He shackles him.
Yeah, shackles him to the wall, and then and basically Fortunato kind of doesn't even know what's going on for a minute, but then he's like, wait, what? And he's and the narrator's like, oh yeah, let me just start.
I'm just don't even worry. About it.
Let me just start putting up these bricks here, and
we'll get your Amontillado.
We'll get the.
Yeah, he's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you playing too much, man?
Yeah, right, exactly. And Fortunato was kind of like, oh yeah, good joke, good joke, buddy.
Nah, dude,
you got me.
Yeah, you know me. I'm just gonna put another layer of bricks down, and we'll get the wine. I just did.
Oh yeah, and so that's basically what happens. And it ends with the guy saying, yeah, and it's been 50 years, so it's all good.
He's probably dead now.
Yeah.
I got him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got him. Yeah,
I hated that guy so much. Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's pretty much
that.
it.
It is like I'm like I don't like. I'm not claustrophobic, but phobic, but I do not like being constrained, and I don't like being held in any position, physically or like socially. So this is one where I'm like, I would be losing my mind too.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's a hot take about being entombed alive, but
no, yeah.
Would you like it?
Would I like it? I'm trying to think of any upside to it. No, it's hard for me to think of any.
Was there actually wine?
It's a good question.
Did he lie about the wine, or?
I mean, I think there was wine, just maybe not Amontillado specifically. Yeah, so maybe he lied about that.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, it's just a story of this guy who's basically a psychopath, because he has this perceived slight that he wants to revenge, and Yeah, and he doesn't.
Yeah, because he doesn't say what he did. He's kind of like, just trust me, he deserves it.
Yeah.
But it's
right.
did he like do something horrible, or is it like the Homer Ned Flanders situation where it's just a guy who is just slightly better than him consistently? And
right.
He's like,
right.
I'm gonna entomb you. Because he's like, I'm actually in the Masons. He's like, I am too, but he's like a lower rank, and he's like,
right.
I'm gonna entomb you.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the fact that this guy is even talking to the other guy seems to suggest that, whatever happened between them probably didn't warrant that. But
the thing is, he's like dressed as like a jester so that he can hear the jingling.
That's
like the big thing.
Yeah, that's the last thing he hears. Yeah, it's just the jingling of the bells.
Does he leaves like one brick open or something?
I don't
or
think so.
Or is that from a parody that I'm misconstruing?
That might be, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking of the Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah, this. I mean, this is a little bit like an episode of Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah. Because it's like he doesn't deserve any of this.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Last story. We're doing it.
Last story.
Buckle your spooky seatbelts.
All right. Yeah. So finally, we have the Telltale Heart. Yeah. So again, we have an unnamed narrator who lives with an old man, and so basically, this guy says he actually really likes this old man. He has nothing against him, but he doesn't like his eye. Okay. Yeah.
He's like something about him. He's like, he's a nice guy. We get along, but his eye, it drives me mad.
Yeah. So and that's sort of the sort of underlying thing with this particular story. The narrator, he seems very intent on convincing you that he's not crazy. Okay. And so that's kind of the key here. And so. Yeah, so he lives with this old guy whose eye drives him mad, and basically he over the course of a couple of nights he practices sneaking into the old man's room like a creep, and just like hovering over his bed and just being like, okay, so I'm able to sneak in here without him hearing me.
Oh,
great,
Yeah, he does like trial runs.
Yeah. So he's basically practicing going into this guy's room, but So maybe it's partly practice, but maybe it's also he wants to kill the guy, but he can't see the guy's eye because the guy's obviously sleeping.
So he's like, well, now I don't have any. I was like, again, I like him without the eye.
Right. So it's like, okay, well, as long as the guy's sleeping, his eyes are closed, no problem. Yeah.
Break time. Okay. He can't bring himself to do it.
Yeah, so he can't bring himself to do it because, the one thing he hates, the guy's eyes are closed. But then one day, basically, he goes in and the old man is startled. He's like, who's there? And so at that point, the guy basically, and it's like, it doesn't even describe how he even kills him. I mean, it's just like he just like tackles the guy, and that's like enough. The guy's startled enough to just die.
He's a very old man.
Yeah. So old man. So I guess that makes sense. So basically, the guy's killed the old man, and so what do you do after that? Well, then you basically cut him up, and you put him underneath the floorboards. So. Simple enough, right?
Yeah. The perfect crime.
Perfect crime. But then some police come by and they're like, hey, some neighbors heard a scream last night, just wondering what it is. And the guy's like, oh, well, of course I was able to fool these police officers. It was very easy because I'm this criminal genius. And so the police come in and this guy's like, oh, yes, of course. That was just me crying out in my sleep. Oh, yeah, the old man, he's out in the country. Yeah, he hasn't been here for a while. So, he's not here. It was just me here. I cried out. And the police are like, oh, that's fine. Okay. Well, yeah, let's just sit down and have some tea and let's continue to talk for a while, even though you've explained what we needed you to explain.
Yeah, and he's like, and to prove that I'm so comfortable with them, I'll make them tea, and that will show my innocence even more so.
Exactly.
And it's they're just like, so you didn't? Okay, well we're done.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
He's like, no, let me show you.
Yes, let's keep talking. Yes,
I cleverly I used my charm and my wit.
Right.
And
Yeah, and so they just keep talking, but as they're talking, he keeps hearing this thump, 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 ringing in his ears, right?
His teeth.
Yeah.
He's jittering. He's like, what was that noise?
Yeah. And other people don't seem to hear it. They don't seem to be bothered by it, but he keeps hearing the thump, thump, and eventually it just gets to be so overpowering. He's just like, okay, I did it. Yes. He's in the floorboards. It's the beating of his heart. Yes, that's happening. And so
the cops are just like,
yeah.
What's up?
Like, oh, what? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, well, you're going to jail.
Right.
You can't do that. That's not okay at all.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, this story is very brief, but compared to a lot of the other stories, a lot happens in a brief period of time. But again, there's not that much to the story. It's more about sort of creating a mood, and the mood is of a guy barely on the edge of sanity, trying to prove his sanity, and basically how this thing that he tried to cover up comes back and bites him in the end. So again, Twilight Zone-esque.
And you're given insight into his mind, which is another. That's like also what makes it like creepier.
Yeah.
It's
definitely.
like he's like, this is an insane person who's like, no, I'm like a cool guy.
Right. Yeah, more sort of obviously insane than the guy in the Cask of Amontillado, because that guy's just like very cold-blooded. He's just like, he narrates it completely calmly, whereas this guy in Telltale Heart is definitely like just barely keeping it together. So,
I loved how. Because it is like that's what happens, but like how quickly that is like, and he's like, yeah, I did it, because it doesn't. It's not like a whole episode of him hearing the beat of it. He's like, you didn't hear anything? Like, no.
Right.
Like, you got me. Torture me no more.
Yeah. It's weird. Yeah, because again, this story's really short, but you could really sort of like, stretch this out a lot longer. This could easily be like a full Twilight Zone episode, something like that, easily.
So it was his heart that he heard, right? Because he was nervous.
Well, yeah. I was actually reading something about this. Like, apparently there's like a species of like owl that will make a certain sound, and that might have been what he heard or something. Yeah. But
he was also I hate that guy's eye. So it could be
right.
He could just be, he's a crazy person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's also like, because you know how like serial killer stuff is always like they were like a super IQ.
Right.
Genius. Like they weren't. The cops just didn't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, well, obviously the cops were doing their best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They didn't get flat out told that guy's trying to kill me and be like, you guys.
Right. Although that did happen one time with Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Like there was like this guy that he was holding captive, and he like tried to
that's
tell the police that
multiple times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They just go like, there's like
a
young love.
Yeah, lover's quarrel.
Yeah, so they're like, Jeffrey Dahmer, how'd he get away with it for so long?
Right.
How could he have maneuvered around these detectives that were
these brilliant detectives.
Yeah, like he's trying to murder me. They're like, I don't care.
Right.
Just why are you telling me?
Yeah.
Are you speeding?
Right.
That's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, he thinks highly. He's writing this from prison, being like, let me tell you things from there's two sides to every story.
Right. Yeah, this is maybe something that he's giving to his lawyer, like
to prove I'm not crazy.
Yeah, he's like, no. Even though the lawyer's like, well, no, actually, we're trying to go with the insanity defense.
He's like, I'm not.
Yeah, no, actually, you need to play up the crazy.
I could not be more sane.
Right.
And Yeah, he's like, whatever they couldn't. I'm so innocent, I wouldn't even hurt a fly. And then,
right.
Well, I don't know what movie that is, but I know it's a thing. Psycho, right?
Norman Bates.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna let the fly be on my face so they know I'm not crazy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're not intellectual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not smart to kill someone. That's a hot take.
Well, taking a stand.
Yeah.
Taking a stand. Yeah.
I would. It's wrong and it's bad.
Okay. Live from Saturn, we're anti-murder. Okay, you heard it here first.
So yeah, that's Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. Good stories, interesting, atmospheric. If you're interested in going back to the beginnings of American horror, I think it's worth your time to check them out.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for folks that like Edgar Allan Poe stories?
So if you like Edgar Allan Poe, maybe you'll like Ray Bradbury because as I mentioned, at least one of the stories in Martian Chronicles is a take on Cask of Amontillado. How about you?
I'm going to say Lovecraft.
Lovecraft is the obvious sort of inspiration. Yeah. He was clearly inspired by Poe.
For stories that are like goth, I don't really know any goth books. Now, if you ask me about Garth Brooks, I can talk all day.
Okay.
But I don't know. We can.
Right.
We'll talk to you later.
Okay.